Well, welcome to a new episode of Unraveling Success. Our 2026 is off to an awesome start with our unfiltered editions. These are short and sweet and just from me, little tidbits that I'm learning and pulling forward from our last 2 years of having lots and lots of really awesome guests on our podcast. And today I wanted to share some information that I recently was told that they had never heard about this before. I built Aspire Insurance Group from scratch off of my relationship with referral partners. And in a podcast that I was recently on, I talked about culture, but not as it pertains to the culture that as business owners that we build within our organizations, but our client cultures and how we build our businesses and how we acquire clients ends up creating a culture that is associated with our book of business. Since I'm in the insurance industry, it's a culture within our book of business. But this is can relate really to like any business. So how you're building and the expectations, how you're grooming your clients, the expectations for them of the service that you're providing or the business that you're in creates a certain attitude or a certain client culture. And so I wanted to just kind of dig into this a little bit and just share my journey and how I came to build in the way I do, and then what's been the byproduct of building how I have. I think it's a really interesting compare and contrast. Um, it's something I've grown to be pretty convicted of as well. Um, so as it pertains to referral partners, I used to, when I first started in business, I knew that like cold calling was just not the best fit for me. I'm just not that person. And some people are and amazing because that's not me. But I knew that building on relationship was really important. And I learned really early on, and I've become more and more convicted of it, is not everybody who is a referral partner, potential referral partner, is a great fit. Um, and So when I first started, I think I would be like, okay, for an insurance person, you think of who is behind you, who is in touch with your client before they need you. So in the insurance industry, it's going to be, maybe CPAs, bankers, mortgage people, realtors, that type of thing. And, um, but So you go into it and you think, oh, we could be referral partners, but they're not all the same. And which is a good thing because not everybody matches everybody. How you do business and the type of clientele that you typically attract is going to, match some people and not other people. And one of the things I think that I've done correctly is one, the referral growing in a referral way was very congruent to who I am, number one. Number two is I always went into meeting with a potential new referral partner as in like how can I bring them value? What can I do for them? And authentically curious about their story, how they got to where they are, who they're working with, how can I make them look amazing? Um and then the right fits just naturally stick. And I remember years ago there was somebody that I really wanted to do business with. And when her and I started doing business together, I started realizing, oh my gosh, everything is an emergency. Everything is last minute. Everything has, in this case was debt to income ratio. So we're always trying to cut corners around pricing and strip down the policy just to get things to close. And, there is a time and a place for that. And we can do that. But also that's not something that we should be doing all the time because it's really, really not in the best interest of the client. I swear it's like tempting fate. It's tempting Murphy's Law, right? Like if something can go wrong, it will. And it's going to be the coverage you pull off to get it to close, which would be the first thing that happens to the house after it's closed. It's like, I'm not into tempting fate. I'm into trying to make sure that, if something happens, you're covered. And really allowing those right fits to naturally fall into place and not trying to push square pegs through round holes. And the funny thing about that is when you allow those right fits to fall into place rather than pushing and trying to turn everybody that's a real estate agent or everybody that's a mortgage broker into becoming a referral partner, the natural fits rise to the top and the relationships go deep and wide. And the clients that come from those right fits end up creating your culture, your client culture. So that means your team, when you're building your team, they get to enjoy picking up the phone and talking to the person on the other line because it's a partner, it's a right fit. And we just did a blog about how birds of a feather flock together. So when you are doing business with the referral partners that are your fit, doing business the same as you, having the same values in business, um, it's so fulfilling. And it's also being able to not worry that my team's going to pick up the phone and have someone on the other end that's disgruntled and angry 99% of the time is just such a relief because insurance can be a challenging. Sometimes we feel like we're a little stuck between the client and the company, and really working hard to advocate for the client, but sometimes can't avoid some things that happen on the company end. And having clients that know that we are 100% in their corner, that we have their backs, that we are looking out for their best interests, like that is one of the most fulfilling things. And so I would just say, as you're building your business, any business, think about the clients that are the right fit, the referrals that are the right fit, and build around what matches you and matches what you're trying to create rather than making exceptions and just doing things that don't align with you. Um, it's interesting when I've done into referral relationships, like it for me, it's always been, how can I bring value? How can I make them look good? And the other thing is in referral relationships, like I'm thinking about us in the insurance industry. When I'm working with a mortgage person and I'm working with a real estate agent, when you're working with someone who you're behind them in the process, in the home buying process or the business process, they're in a position to send leads to you, but you're not in an equal position to send leads back. So having somebody that understands that this isn't necessarily a you send me leads so I can send you leads from a referral partner standpoint, it doesn't always work that way. But finding ways to bring them value, helping lifting them up in their client's eyes, or, oh my gosh, if you come from XYZ person, you bump to the top of our list. They are just an A caliber, you know, mortgage broker or real estate agent or commercial lender to work with. And you just made a really great choice. Like finding ways to give back and bring them value, but also finding somebody who doesn't think that because they sent you leads, but they're in front of you in the process, like somehow we're going to find a way to be able to refer back all the time because there's kind of usually a certain flow in business of how things go. One of the things I learned when I worked at the big farm was what client culture is created when you're buying leads. And I intentionally did not buy leads because one thing I noticed, and this is specific in the insurance industry, but honestly, I'm sure it applies in many other areas too, is when you start buying leads, the people that are buying online, first of all, you get a slew of people, so you end up being one of many. Yes, there are exclusive leads as well, but they're typically price shopping. They're not seeing the value in insurance. They're not looking for a relationship or a trusted advisor. And then same people in 6 months or a year go online and shop again. So you kind of end up being a little bit of like a hamster in a wheel, and your retention goes down often. And when your retention goes down, then you're forced to buy more leads to fill that pipeline again. You kind of just end up like a little bit of a hamster um, on a wheel, because they're typically not the people, not always, but they're typically not the people that are really looking for a trusted advisor or an actual like relationship. They're more transactional. And so that's another thing that I've done intentionally, just to not, to be mindful of agency culture. So I'm sharing this just to encourage you that as you are growing in business, grow in a way that's authentic to you, but don't feel like everybody is a referral partner. Look for your right fits And as you're building your team, realize how important it is to be working and keeping the clients that you want to work with really strongly identified, because those are your clients, create that client culture, and your team is either going to love them or it's going to be a huge area of pain for them. Um 2 years ago in April, we purchased a book of business, and I have never had a bigger lesson of client culture and the difference in client cultures. At Aspire, we've always been really proactive. We will absolutely remarket an insurance account when rates are indicating that that is necessary or would be in the client's best interest. But in the insurance world right now, it actually, if you're just going out and shopping every single year, it actually can hurt you because companies can see that you're kind of insurance hopping, and it can damage your insurance score. So there needs to be some strategy put around rather than just going to and requoting every single year. So that's not a best practice. So there needs to be more thought put behind it, which is part of what we do in working in proactive renewals. And so we would actually have them calling in this book of business, and they expected to be remarketed and requoted every single year. And in addition to that, I don't know, I've never ever experienced this, but they had this idea that you could like name your own price. So actually, even just today, so I'm recording this on January 22nd, one of my team members this morning when I came in said she just got off of a call with somebody and they thought that they could name their renewal price. So you can't renew my insurance unless you make it XYZ amount of dollars, which that is not even a thing. But somehow what was happening is these people would say this, and this agency would remove all kinds of coverages and strip down things that we're still having to go through every single policy because we're finding ways that they were cutting premium dollars that we've never even imagined. So these people just had this expectation that it was just a very commoditized, price driven. But the problem is when you're having claims on that book of business, well, there was a lot of unhappy people with policies that had been written because they liked the premium, but when it came to claims time, their policies weren't acting like they were expecting them to, because they were cutting corners in ways that they didn't understand how it would affect coverages. And so that is a really good example of it was a huge lesson on my end that I definitely will find in the future ways to vet out client culture. And this was a big learning curve for me about what our client culture is and how special that is and how intentional we need to be about it. And there's no greater lesson than learn it from me, my mistake of not vetting it out because I didn't actually realize how special it was. Contrasting to something when you're in it and you're realizing, okay, there's we have a book of commoditized people that don't value partnership and actual like coverages and protection that we're offering. So I just learned from me. Client culture is, I would say, just as important as your business culture, as a culture you create with your team, because these are people that your team is working with every day. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that little tidbit. So we got culture within your organization, and also be very mindful of the culture of people that you are willing to invite into your book of business.